caravels. The caravel comes from the Moorish caravos. The instruments on their ships, the compass, the Moors had brought in the compass. It had been refined, or rather earlier it had been brought in, though they were to refine it further. The astrolabe had been brought in out of Asia, not out of Europe. The sails on the ships of Columbus and Vespucci were Arab Latin sails which Arabs and Africans were using on the Indian Ocean. So what was so marvelous about Christopher? He went out, he struck out for the latitudes of Japan, hoping to land in India. And then when he landed in the little islands in the Caribbean, he was so frightened he could not go back home and say, "Sorry man, you wasted your money. I did not find the riches of India." Do you know what Columbus did? He sent his notary Fernando Perez de Luna among the ships and made every man sign a document that he was off the coast of Asia. And he threatened his men. If they went back home and said they had not found the edge of, they were not on the edge of Asia, if they were members of his staff, officers of the ship, they would be fined 500 maravedis, and if they were common sailors, they would be given 100 lashes and have their tongues cut out. He was not joking. Can't go back home. That's like what happened in my country. So Walter Raleigh, Queen Elizabeth's lover, First Elizabeth, went out to my country to find the Golden City. Didn't find it, went back home, and she chopped off his head. So Columbus couldn't go back and tell Ferdinand and Isabella, "I'm sorry." That's a lot of money went down the drain. And that story about the great gold, even as a young man, I heard that the gold was in my jungle because Orinoco, the Golden City, El Dorado, was situated in the Guyana jungle. Jimenez de Quesada, Queen Philip II, Walter Raleigh, all of them came into my jungle searching for the Golden City and met with grief. So when I was 20 years old, I went myself into the bush with a friend of mine searching for the Golden City. Damn fool as I was at that. So it is this vision of gold, this greed, that drew ship after ship after ship in this direction. And so it wasn't because of the superiority of the ships. China reported that Africans had brought ships to them 2 centuries before Columbus. They had brought elephants in ships. Do you know what it is to take an elephant from Africa to China in a ship? It was not a dugout, clearly not a dugout, and it was not the little ships, caravels of Columbus, because it would have been nice to see a herd of elephants on the Santa Maria. There would have been no celebration in 1990. Even the gun is not European. The first evidence we have of the fire stick, as it is called, is the Moor using the gun in India as the Muslims attacked India. The Europeans took it. They didn't have gunpowder technology which had been brought out of China by the Moors. Europeans took it and it became the weapon of great devastation. And look at their number system. The Europeans did not have ciphers. They had numbers, but they did not have ciphers, which are symbols for numbers, which are critical in the development of mathematics. Because to reach a certain height in mathematics, you cannot have a cumbersome letter system. Look at the Romans, who were in advance of the Greeks. How do they count? 1 is 1, 2 is 1, 1. There's no 2. It's 1, 1. 3 is 1, 1, 1. 4 is 1 V. Then 5 is the V. Then 6 is V1. 7V11, 8V111, it all over again. Letters. They did not have ciphers. We owe the ciphers we have today to the Moors. The Moors took it out of India. We do not know how it got into India. When I was speaking at Princeton 2 years ago, I pointed out that several mathematicians had told me that these were Hindu ciphers which the Moors took out of India. When I presented that, a scholar who had studied the Hindu number system said he only found 3 of these shapes among the Hindus, so some of the other shapes was to come from somewhere else. About a year later, a gentleman, a mathematician from Philadelphia, black mathematician, discovered in a book called Mathematical Recreations by Fred Schur a picture of figures, symbols on the step pyramid of Saqqara, where there were dancers and there were people, snakes, forming these exact numbers, these symbols, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in Egypt. Now we don't know if it's a fraud. Okay, so I cannot say that it developed in Egypt, but the strange thing is that where they said it developed, we've only found 3 symbols resembling that, so we still don't know, but we know it didn't happen in Europe. Fibonacci in 1202 traveled to India where he said he saw some of these symbols. But when he tried to introduce some of them into Europe as symbols that could be used, decimal numbers, the Europeans would have none of it. The church was in charge, and the church was superstitious, and the church said numbers are works of the devil. So that it was not used until the Moors introduced it into the commercial circles from wherever it came. For the time being, we will say it's Hindu until we find people who can tell us. I have sent out 6 mathematicians to pursue this matter, and we have not been able to go beyond that. But until we can find otherwise, it is clear that it was brought in by the Moors. Whether it originated in India or not, it was brought for certain out of India by the Moors. Now, that was not all. Every major thing, every point of excellence in the world at that time, industrial excellence, was where the Moors were. The carpets of Tulala were the finest in the world. That's where the Moors were. The leather of Morocco was the finest in the world. The tannery where the Moors were. The blades of Toledo were the finest in the world. That's where the Moors were. The iron and brass that was the finest in the world was at Murcia. That's where the Moors were. All of these things. And they brought the finest sashes from Almira and the finest carpets in Tulala. And they brought these incredible agricultural development in Spain at the time after the Moors were kicked out of Spain. Spain went down. It never became the power it was under the Moors. They charged everything. They insisted that education was absolutely important. It was not so in the Christian world at the time. They insisted that baths were important. That was not so at the time. Some people in the church thought that cleanliness is next to godliness was not introduced by the church. Okay, that was introduced by somebody who thought it was good sense. Because part of the Black Death had to do with the fact. There's a book called that deals with the dirt that developed in certain civilizations. You have to be very careful about that. This is not an attack on people. This is an attack on certain ideas, certain concepts that people had that were to profoundly affect them, and other people came in with different ideas. That is the nature of civilization. Primitive cultures do not advance easily because they are closed capsules of culture. Civilizations are open things. You're supposed to take into your system the very best that is available.